Hello travelers, today's Baldur's Gate 3 video is a class overview of the big, bad, beefy boy, the Barbarian. Each of these class overview videos goes into simple detail of the playable classes in Baldur's Gate 3, using knowledge from the game and from D&D. Of course, if I do get anything wrong or miss out what you think might be important information in any of these videos, please do leave a comment down below to let others know of any additional knowledge that could be useful in creating your BG3 character. August 3rd is almost upon us, and I can't stop making BG3 videos, so in the meantime, before we get our hands on the game, this is what we have. So leave a thumbs up on the video if you are excited for Baldur's Gate 3, and let's dive in. The Barbarian is a character class in BG3 who use their martial powers and primal rage to strengthen themselves and dominate enemies in combat. Barb's key ability scores are obviously strength as well as dexterity and constitution. Barbarians are used as tank classes primarily as they have a naturally high AC as well as being able to use a shield and armor to increase it further. Being so genetically powerful, if you run a Barb class, you start with a 1d12 hit die per barbarian level. Barbarians, being mainly big, beefy fighters, are proficient in light and medium armor, as well as the ability to use shields, simple and martial weaponry. Speaking of barbarians being used as tank classes, even without armor, they have something at first level called unarmored defense, which, when you're not wearing any armor, your AC equals 10, plus your dexterity modifier, plus your constitution. Add a shield to your hand, and even without armor, you have a pretty hefty looking AC. The main attraction and use of a barbarian class is the barbarian rage. In battle, you fight with primal ferocity. On your turn, you can enter into a rage as a bonus action. Whilst raging, you gain the following benefits so long as you are not wearing heavy armor. It means if you're wearing light, medium, or no armor, you get these benefits. Of course, if you have heavy armor on though, you will not get these benefits from your rage. So, whilst raging, you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. When you make a melee weapon attack using strength, you gain a bonus to the damage roll that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian, starting at +2 at level 1. You have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, making the Barb class a perfect suitor to be the front man of your formation, to tank the attacks of the enemies and use their high AC as well as the resistance to take on all of the damage on them, whilst the rest of your party position themselves wisely enough to make their attacks and defeat the foes and stay unhindered, maintaining high HP in battle, while the Barbarian takes all of the focus. If you have the ability to cast spells, usually you cannot cast them or concentrate on them while raging. The rage is purely about using melee attacks and taking in as much damage as you can. You are in too deep at that point, and your only focus is to deal as much damage as possible. To spell casting is a no-go. Your rage lasts for 1 minute. It ends early if you are knocked unconscious or if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn. It also ends if you've not taken damage since then. You can also choose to end your rage on your turn as a bonus action. So if there's only 1 or 2 creatures left and you're nowhere near them and you think, hey, I don't need to rage anymore, you can also end it as a bonus action on your turn. You get a certain number of rages per level. So levels 1 and 2, you have 2 rages available per long rest before you can rage again. So if you're in a big battle and you use a rage, you defeat all the enemies, you go about your ways, and you run into another big battle that you want to rage in, that means you've used 2 rages. So after that battle, you will need to have a long rest to replenish your rage abilities. Starting at 2nd level, you can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with fierce desperation. With reckless attack, when you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on melee weapon attack rolls using strength during this turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage until your next turn. Also at 2nd level, you get danger sense, giving you an uncanny sense of when things nearby aren't as they should be, which gives you the edge when you dodge away from danger. You have advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects that you can see, such as traps and spells. So the Barbarian is a big, beefy class that can be hit by anyone. It can attack anyone with ferocious attacking strength, and it can also sense danger, like traps and spells that may be in your way on your way to your next battle. Barbarians get 3 subclasses, 2 of which were in early access, and there's one new one that will be coming on full release. The first is Berserker. Violence is both a means and an end. You follow a path of untrammeled fury, slick with blood, as you thrill in the chaos of battle, heedless of your own well-being. Berserkers, in the name pretty much, are all about shedding as much blood as possible. They don't care what it means will happen to them. They just want to deal as much damage as possible. Frenzy is a Berserker Barbarian bonus action. This ability turns the Berserker's anger into an uncontrollable fury and grants additional abilities. Sort of think of Hulk in the MCU, if you will, back in the day when he couldn't control it. That's kind of what the Berserker Barbarian is all about. Just Hulk smash, you go in and you dominate the opposition. Your rage turns into a frenzy as you release your unquenchable fury and bloodlust. Gain the use of Frenzied Strike and Enraged Throw. You can also use an improvised melee weapon as a bonus action. Frenzy ends early if you haven't attacked a creature or taken damage since your last turn. So it works kind of similarly to the Barbarian's Rage, in that if you have not taken any damage since your last turn, or if you haven't attacked a creature since your last turn, the frenzy will end prematurely. Again, you want to rage or use your frenzied rage when you're in the middle of a battle. You want your barbarian at the front line, so it's either getting damage thrown its way or it's dealing damage to continue the rage and the frenzied rage for as long as humanly possible. Hopefully, fingers crossed, until all of the opponents are dead. Enraged Throw is a Berserker Barbarian bonus action as well, and this ability allows the Berserker to make a ranged attack using nearby items or creatures. So if there are a little bit of a goblin camp situation going on, the Berserker Barbarian may pick up a little friendly goblin and launch them at a further away goblin if they so desire. Again, talking about this class, all I think about is Hulk back in the early days of the MCU, throwing everything, smashing everything, and just going, well, berserk, really. The second subclass for the Barbarian is Wildheart, and just the names alone, you have Berserker, and then you have Wildheart. It sounds very tame compared to the Berserker, and it takes you down a different path than the Berserker as well, as you would imagine. Your attunement with nature and his beasts inspire your rage, empowering you with supernatural might. With Wildheart, you get to choose one of the following bestial hearts to follow: either bear, eagle, elk, tiger, or wolf. So you have choices between which path you are going down, each with their own uniquenesses depending on how you want your character to play. For example, if you go with the bear heart, while raging, you can use unrelenting ferocity and have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. Whereas if you choose to go down the elk path, while raging, you will gain primal stampede and your movement speed increases by 15. The decision is yours depending on what buffs you want whilst raging as your barbarian. All of them are pretty self-explanatory too. Like I say, the bear, if you think about a bear, it's going to be improving your resistance because bears have, you know, heavy fur and they're really good at taking damage. Whereas if you go to an elk, which isn't going to be dealing a lot of damage, it's not going to be really defense. It's going to be the movement aspect of the elk that you are going to get the buff on whilst raging. I've never had a barbarian playthrough before, and they really intrigue me, especially now with half-orcs being in the game. I'm rather excited at the potential of playing as a barbarian, and the third and the new subclass, which we're about to talk about now, is, I think, the one that I would use if we have a barbarian play. The third and new subclass to BG3's Barbarian is the Wild Magic Barbarian, which to me originally when I first saw this just sounded absolutely crazy because we've had a chance to play Wild Magic before in early access, but never with a barbarian. I've had a Wild Magic Sorcerer playthrough, and if you don't know what Wild Magic is, I mean, it's wild and it's magic. It's awesome. Seeing as this subclass is going to be the first introduced to Baldur's Gate 3 for full release, we haven't had the opportunity to play it yet, of course, but all of the information I have is based off of D&D 5e, which is what BG3 is somewhat based off, loosely based off. That's the rulebook that they, you know, try to follow for the most part. They've changed a few things here and there. They've buffed monks and stuff like that, but for the most part, this is what they follow. And also, I mean, based off what we know from Wild Magic, As the sorcerer, what happened was whenever you cast a spell of any kind, you are forced to roll a d20, and whatever it results in on the unseen wild magic table happens in the game. Now, these can range from being good, they can be bad, or they can have nothing major affecting your gameplay. For barbarians, it looks like instead of casting spells, it will be whenever you enter into a rage, there will be a wild surge, and the magical energy rolling inside of you sometimes erupts. When you enter your rage, the same outcomes can happen to add to the chaotic nature and wildness of your playthrough. Again, I had a Sorcerer Wild Magic playthrough on Early Access, and it was one of my favorite playthroughs, purely because the insanity that can occur from wild magic is hilarious. Again, sometimes it can help you in battle, sometimes it can hinder you greatly. And sometimes something tiny could happen, like your character could grow a beard or something like that. And it's just a lot of fun, especially with a barbarian class who isn't usually attuned to magic, like a sorcerer, of course. It could add a lot of fun to your role-playing abilities. Overall, barbarians are a super fun-looking class to play if, especially, you like running headfirst into battles and being at the forefront of every encounter. With the addition of wild magic, I think there will be one of my favorite classes to play when I eventually try out that wild magic barbarian subclass. I think the barbarian will be a fan favorite overall as well, especially with the introduction of half-orcs. Like I said, the fact that they have such a high base hit point stat. I'm pretty sure they have the highest hit point stat in the game to begin with, their base HP stat, as well as being insanely strong, insanely hard to hit with their massive AC. These barbs, they're gonna barb. I think those are all the major points for the Barbarian subclass. Let me know if you've played Barbarian in Early Access or if you plan to in the full release. Which subclass are you going to go for? If you've learned something from this video, hopefully you've had some fun, and hopefully you are excited for BG3. We will be doing one of these for every class in Baldur's Gate 3 leading up to the full release of August 3rd. Ladies and gentlemen, trying to grow a BG3 community here as much as possible. So, if you haven't already, please do leave a thumbs up on this video and make sure you subscribe with the bell to be turned on when we upload. To be notified when we upload. It's going to be insane when BG3 finally releases. We're going to have a full playthrough on this channel, and I would love to hear some of your guys' playthroughs as well. We do have a Discord link in the description. We're going to add a Baldur's Gate 3 channel in the Discord so you guys can talk about your own playthroughs, your own experiences, and if you want to find any friends to play with on co-op, you can also find some people in our Discord. And just like that, my weary travelers, I've been Harry TV, also known as Readers Kid. Much of as always, take care, keep your rage going forever, and peace.